I found a burner phone in my husband's car. It only has one contact saved as work. The messages are definitely not work-related. He's been planning to leave me for someone else but waiting until after tax season so he can claim me as a dependent one more time. I'm 29F and I'm currently sitting in a Starbucks parking lot because I can't be in my house right now. I found something an hour ago and I'm spiraling. My husband Dan is 33M. We've been married for 4 years, together for 6. He's a CPA. And right now is his busy season. Tax deadlines are coming up and he's working like 70-hour weeks. It's been this way every year since we got together, January through April. He's basically a ghost. I'm used to it. This morning Dan left for work early, like 6 a.m. early, around 8. I went out to move his car because the landscapers were coming and his car was blocking where they needed to park their trailer. I grabbed his keys from the hook. When I got in his car, I saw a phone wedged between the passenger seat and the console, not his regular phone. He'd taken that with him. This was a cheap Android in a plain black case. I figured maybe it was a work phone or something he used for clients. I pulled it out to move it somewhere safer and it lit up. No lock screen. Just opened right to the messages. There was only one contact saved, work. The most recent message was from last night at 11 p.m. I thought Dan had been asleep by 11. The message said, "Can't wait to not have to hide anymore. 89 more days." I scrolled up, weeks of messages between Dan and whoever work is, and they were absolutely not work-related. Messages about missing each other, about sneaking around, about future plans together, about how hard it is to pretend. Then I found the ones about me. Work had asked when Dan was going to tell me. Dan's response: "After tax season, I need to file jointly one more time. The deduction is too good to pass up and she makes enough that it matters. Plus I need the return to afford the deposit on a new place." He's waiting to divorce me until after he can claim me on his taxes. I'm literally a line item in his financial planning. I kept reading, found messages from December where Dan told work he was going to leave me after the holidays because he didn't want to ruin Christmas. Work said that was sweet of him. Then Dan said actually he'd wait until after tax season for financial reasons. There were messages about apartments Dan had been looking at, screenshots of listings, discussions about which neighborhood would be best for when work moved in with him, messages about what he was going to take from our house. Apparently the coffee maker and the stand mixer are coming with him because he bought those anyway. Messages complaining about me, how I'm always home now, since I started working remotely last year, how it's harder to talk to work because I might hear him on the phone, how he wishes tax season was over so he could be done with this. Our marriage is this. I found messages from September. That's when it started. Apparently, they met at some tax conference, started talking, exchanged numbers, started messaging, started an affair. 5 months. He's been cheating for 5 months and planning his exit strategy. The most recent messages from this morning were about meeting up today during lunch. Dan told work he'd say he was going to a client meeting. They were planning to meet at the usual hotel. The usual hotel. They have a usual hotel. I took screenshots of everything on my phone, every message, every photo he'd sent work, every plan they'd made. Then I put the burner phone back exactly where I found it, moved Dan's car, went back inside. The landscapers showed up. I pointed to where they needed to work, went through the motions. Then I got in my car and drove here. I've been sitting in this parking lot for 45 minutes trying to figure out what to do. Dan has no idea I know. He's at work right now, probably messaging work from this phone I'm not supposed to know exists, making plans to meet up at lunch, planning our divorce around his tax strategy. I called my best friend. She's a divorce attorney. She said document everything, don't confront him yet, and come see her Monday. She said if I file first, I control the narrative. I called my sister. She said to pack his stuff and throw it on the lawn. I'm tempted, but here's the thing. I'm not even surprised. I'm hurt and angry and betrayed, but I'm not surprised. Dan has always been practical to the point of cold. He plans everything around maximum efficiency. Of course he'd plan his affair and divorce around tax benefits. I should have seen signs. He's been distant for months. Sex has been non-existent. I thought it was because he was stressed about work. He's been on his phone constantly. I thought it was client emails. He's been taking a lot of lunch meetings. I thought that was normal for tax season. I've been making excuses for behavior that was actually him having an affair. The 89 days thing is what gets me. Tax deadline is April 15th. That's 89 days from now. He's got a countdown going. The day after he files our joint return and gets whatever refund or deduction benefits my income provides. He's planning to tell me it's over. He's using me as a tax shelter. I don't know what to do. My friend says to play dumb until I can file for divorce first. My sister says to confront him tonight. My mom says to check our bank accounts and credit cards to see what else he's hiding. I feel so stupid. We've been talking about having kids this year. I've been looking at houses because our condo is too small for a family. I've been planning a future that Dan's been planning to exit. Do I confront him? Do I wait? Do I pretend I don't know and let him think his plan is working? Part of me wants to file for divorce tomorrow and serve him papers at work. Part of me wants to wait until April 14th and file on April 15th, right before the tax deadline, so he can't claim me as a dependent after all. Is that petty? Probably, but he's counting down 89 days until he can financially benefit from me one last time before leaving. I think I'm entitled to some pettiness. Update. Later that night, I went home. Dan came home around 7 p.m., said he'd had a long day, lots of client meetings, asked what I'd done today. I said nothing much, moved his car for the landscapers, did some work, normal stuff. He didn't even flinch, didn't check his car for the phone, just kissed me on the forehead and went to take a shower. While he was in the shower, I checked our joint bank account. There'd been regular withdrawals of $200 to $300 cash over the past few months, probably to pay for the hotel rooms. I found charges for flowers I never received, dinners at restaurants we never went to, a charge from a jewelry store in November for $800. I never got jewelry. I checked our credit card. There's a charge from 2 weeks ago for a romantic restaurant downtown. Dan told me that night he was working late at the office. He took someone else to dinner on our credit card. After his shower, Dan made himself dinner, didn't ask if I'd eaten, ate while scrolling on his phone, his regular phone, probably being careful since I was in the room. He asked if I wanted to watch a show. I said sure. We watched an episode of something I wasn't paying attention to. He fell asleep on the couch. His regular phone buzzed. I looked. Text preview from Jim from work, which I'm guessing is how he has work saved in his regular phone for appearances. The message said, missing you. Wish you were here instead. Dan has a Jim from work. Actual Jim. This isn't him. I let Dan sleep on the couch. I went to bed. I'm lying here now and he still hasn't come to bed. I looked at the screenshots again, found one I'd missed earlier. Dan told work that I'm fine as a person, but not exciting, and he's been bored for over a year. Said he married me because it seemed like the right time, but he's realized he's settled. I'm someone he settled for, and now he's planning his escape while maximizing his tax benefits. I called my attorney friend again. She's drafting divorce papers tomorrow. Said we should file by end of week. She said in my state, the date of separation matters for tax purposes. If we're legally separated before April 15th, he can't file jointly even if we're still technically married. She's going to hit him where it hurts. His precious tax return. I'm going to file first, probably Friday. Let him go into the weekend thinking everything is fine, then have him served Monday. He wants to use me for tax benefits? Fine, I'll make sure that's the last benefit he gets from this marriage. Update. I filed for divorce Friday afternoon. Dan doesn't know yet. He'll be served Monday at work. My attorney is a shark. She looked at all the screenshots and said we have a solid case for fault-based divorce since my state still recognizes adultery. She said the burner phone evidence is damning. Friday night, Dan came home and asked if I wanted to go out to dinner. First time he suggested a date in months. I said sure. We went to a nice restaurant. He was actually attentive, asked about my day, held my hand across the table. It felt like when we first got married. I realized this is probably guilt, or maybe he's practicing being nice for when he has to tell me he's leaving, getting his story straight about how he tried to make it work. I smiled, laughed at his jokes, acted like everything was normal. The whole time I was thinking about him being served papers in 72 hours. We came home. He wanted to be intimate. I said I was tired. He looked disappointed but didn't push it. Saturday morning, Dan said he had to work, said he'd be at the office most of the day. I said okay. After he left, I checked his location on our shared phone app. He wasn't at his office. He was at an address I didn't recognize. I looked it up. Apartment complex across town. I drove by. Dan's car was there, parked right next to a blue Honda Civic. I sat there for an hour. He came out at noon with someone. Couldn't see clearly but they hugged goodbye by the cars. Dan came home around 2 p.m. Said work was crazy busy. Asked what I'd done. I said just some cleaning. He didn't suspect anything. Sunday was normal. We went to the grocery store together. Meal prepped for the week. Did laundry. Domestic routine like we weren't about to implode. This morning Dan left for work at 6 a.m. like usual. Said he had an early client meeting. Kissed me goodbye. In a few hours, he's going to get served divorce papers at his office. My attorney wanted to do it there specifically. Professional. Embarrassment. I packed a bag last night. After he gets served, I'm going to my sister's for a few days. My attorney said to let him process a loan and not engage directly. I left a note on the counter for when he gets home. It says, I found the phone. I know about work. I know about your plan to wait until after tax season. I filed first. You won't be claiming me as a dependent anymore. You won't be claiming anything from me anymore. My sister is coming over in an hour to help me load some things into my car. Clothes, important documents, things I don't want Dan to have access to. My attorney said to photograph everything in the house in case he claims I took things I didn't. I'm taking pictures of every room, documenting what's here, protecting myself. Dan's burner phone is still in his car. I haven't touched it since that first day. Let him think his secret is still safe for a few more hours. I should feel bad. Maybe I Should have confronted him in person, talked it through, given him a chance to explain, but he had 89 days planned. He was going to use me for tax benefits and then discard me. He doesn't deserve a gentle confrontation. He deserves exactly what he's getting. Final update, 1 month later. It's been 4 weeks since I filed. Dan got served at his office on that Monday like planned. According to my attorney, he called her office within 20 minutes demanding to talk to me. She told him all communication goes through her. He came home that day to find my note and half my stuff gone. He called me 47 times. I didn't answer. He texted begging to talk. I blocked him. He showed up at my sister's house. She told him to leave or she'd call the police. He left. He sent emails, long ones explaining that yes, he'd been talking to someone else, but it wasn't serious, that he'd been confused, that the messages didn't mean what they seemed to mean. My attorney responded to his attorney with all the screenshots that ended the not serious claims. Dan tried to claim he should still get to file our taxes jointly since we'd been married all of last year. My attorney shut that down hard. We filed as married filing separately. He lost whatever deductions he'd been counting on. His attorney tried to argue that I'd stolen the information from his phone by looking without permission. My attorney pointed out it was in his car, which is jointly owned marital property, and the phone was unlocked lying in plain sight. That went nowhere. The burner phone mystery solved itself. Work as a 26-year-old junior accountant at Dan's firm named Jamie. I found this out because Jamie called me. Yeah, Dan's affair partner called me. Jamie had no idea Dan was married. Apparently Dan told Jamie he was divorced, that the delay in them being public was because his ex-wife was vindictive and he was trying to keep his personal life private at work. Jamie found out Dan was still very much married when mutual friends at the firm started gossiping about Dan's divorce filing. Jamie put 2 and 2 together and realized the ex-wife was actually current wife. Jamie called to apologize, said if they'd known Dan was married, it never would have happened. I actually believed them. They sounded genuinely upset and horrified. I asked about the tax season comment. Jamie said Dan had specifically said he needed to wait until after tax season to go public with their relationship because of complicated financial stuff with his ex. Turns out the complicated financial stuff was using me for deductions. Jamie broke up with Dan immediately after finding out, blocked him, quit the firm, didn't want any part of the mess, so Dan lost his wife and his affair partner in the same week. Can't say I feel bad about that. The divorce is moving fast. No kids, limited shared assets, clear evidence of adultery. My attorney says we should be done in another month or 2. We're reselling the condo, splitting the proceeds minus my attorney fees which Dan has to cover per the judge's order. I already found a small apartment I love, moving in next week. Dan tried one last time to apologize, sent a handwritten letter to my sister's house, 5 pages of how sorry he was, how he'd made terrible choices, how he wanted to fix things. The letter included a breakdown of his tax return, showing me how much money we lost by filing separately, like I'd care about his tax losses. I didn't respond. My attorney sent a formal letter telling him to cease all direct contact. Financially, I'm better off than I thought I'd be. Turns out Dan had been hiding some money in an account he thought I didn't know about. My attorney found it during discovery. That's getting split too. I got a promotion at work last month. Better title, 15% raise. It's nice timing since I'm about to be single and paying my own bills. I've been on 2 dates. Nothing serious yet, but it's nice to remember what it's like to talk to someone who actually wants to be there, who isn't counting down days until they can leave me efficiently. My friends have been incredible. I've had a standing invitation for dinner at someone's house every week. Nobody's let me spiral or sit alone too long. Dan's friends have been silent. I thought some of them were my friends too, but apparently not. That's fine. Quality over quantity. I ran into Dan's mom at the grocery store last week. She tried to tell me that Dan made a mistake and marriage is about forgiveness. I told her marriage is also about not planning to leave your spouse around your tax filing strategy. She didn't have a response to that. Here's what I learned. When someone shows you they value you as a tax deduction more than as a person, believe them the first time. Dan didn't love me. Maybe he did once, but somewhere along the way I became a convenience, a checkbox in his life plan, a financial benefit to maximize before moving on. The burner phone was a gift. Honestly, if I hadn't found it, I'd have spent the next 89 days being a loving wife to someone who was counting down the hours until he could leave. Instead, I got to control my own exit, file first, protect myself financially, end things on my terms. Am I hurt? Yes. Am I angry? Absolutely, but I'm also relieved. I'm 29 years old, I have a good job, good friends, and my whole life ahead of me. I'm not someone's dependent, I'm not someone's tax strategy, I'm not someone's placeholder, I'm just me, and that's enough. Dan got exactly what he was planning to give me, a divorce, just on my timeline instead of his. And that's the end of this story. Dan's single, Jamie's gone, and I'm free of someone who valued me primarily as a line item on his 1040 form.